Hi everyone, Zarina here, aka Woolly Nomad, and today I'm frogging a project and I thought I'd share it with you because, just in case you're like, if you're a new knitter, you might not understand the idea of frogging and you might just think, oh, I'll just chuck it in the bin. But this yarn was a Cashmere Merino blend, Italian yarn. It's a vintage yarn actually, because it's something I had from a while back, and I was knitting up a jumper, I think, because there's a nice big bulk of it here knitted up, and it's been in a bag now for probably a year waiting to be frogged. And you can put things into sort of charity recycling and this and that, etc., if you want to, but I think if it's a nice quality yarn, and this is really soft, then it's a good idea to take it apart and use it again. Sadly though, I started something and I've obviously mixed the whole thing up. So we've got a lot of debris in there. We've got bits of other yarn in there. It's been rolling around for a year. And I think I might have changed bags and things, from bag to bag. So the best thing to do, first of all, I suppose, is to sort of use get one bit. Get one bit of knitting and then, move that to one side. Okay, so I think, right, so this is kind of mixed up and it's all of them mixed together, but I'm going to try and take this apart. Now, when I was knitting it, it's a really firm fabric, and I think maybe that's what put me off. I thought it was a bit too thick. I wanted it a bit looser. And I think, when you knit a jumper, if it's knit loosely, then it's so much more comfortable, to be honest. So yeah, so I like my jumpers to be kind of loosely knit now. I used to make really tight, tightly woven jumpers and stuff like that. And they're more like jackets really when you do that, which is quite nice. It's quite nice. But I like the idea of layering now. Layering and, having a couple of different loose jumpers on rather than a really big thick one. That knitting came out really nice though, didn't it? Right, so I've managed to isolate this thread, and I was using it double, and maybe I should have used it single actually when I was doing it. But again, when you're designing stuff to wear, you're a bit like, whatever. So I did a wool winding episode actually a little while back, not very long ago actually. I think it was October or September. And I was showing you how to wind the wool like this. And you can use a wool winder if you want to. I'm not sure where mine is at the moment. Yeah, so when you frog, you get this kind of little curviness to the yarn, which some people like the idea of taking out. And one way you can do that is by first of all, obviously, wind it into a ball and then change the ball into a hank using your Swift. Right. So yeah, so you can use your Swift to turn the ball into a hank, and then what you do is you give it a little soak. Make sure you've tied the hank properly so it doesn't get all muddled up again. And then you give it a soak in some lukewarm water with some wool wash, and soak it there for about, I don't know, 10 minutes maybe. Wash it out, rinse it out, and then dry it nicely on a sort of dry it. You don't have to dry it flat because it's not knitted up. You just dry it by hanging it from like an aera or something like that. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to put it in the tumble dryer, which is what I normally do with everything, but because in this country it's kind of cold and damp, so you can't really have things hanging around the house. You kind of have to dry them in a tumble dryer. So you probably have to look for a sunny day to do that if you're going to wash your hank out. But first of all, what you would do is you would actually just wind it into a ball first, and I'm just winding like so. Now when you do wind, and I didn't mention this before, but you've got to make sure you've got the right side. If I was trying to unravel from this end, it would not happen, very easily, because even though I could take it apart, I'd always get stuck here, and you see what happens is it's threaded through, you see, like that, and you'd have to unthread it every single time, which would get difficult when this becomes a ball. So you kind of got to make sure that you're winding from the right side so you don't get that edge where it's getting stuck. So if it's getting stuck at the edge, you know you're winding from or you're frogging from the wrong side. You're frogging from this side. So abandon that one and then start frogging from the other side, and it'll probably go all right. Yeah. It's a shame to take apart knitting, isn't it? But at the end of the day, if it's not working for you, you just need to do something else with it, you know. And like I said, if you've got nice yarn that you want to keep or make into something nice, then you know, go for it. I kind of want to make a shawl out of this, so I'm going to probably do a little triangle shawl. I've got a pattern somewhere, and I'm going to knit up that pattern. I might even expand on it, because that triangle shawl I think is not huge. Maybe I might want to make this bigger, because I've got quite a lot of yarn here. You know, that could be a bigger shawl and be quite warm actually for the winter. Let's see what I do. I mean, I might make it plain, and then again I might put a little design on. Let's see what I do. I don't know yet. I'm still thinking about it. I do like plain things. I think they've got like a style quality to them. So it's all about how the fabric drapes and stuff like that. Not about necessarily the pattern on the fabric, you know. So you can just pull it like so if you want to. Just pull it and then wind it. But this is very easy to unwind. Unravel. So, you know, it's balling up quite nicely, isn't it? Look at that. Yeah. And with the ball, all you do is you just, you know, move it around with your finger like so until, you know, one way, and then move it the other way. So there you go. Yeah, so that's pretty much it with frogging a project. It's not actually not much more to say really. I'm going to go and do all of this now. That's going to take me, how long will it take me to do all of this? I've actually got to untangle that. So let me do a little bit of untangling while we're here. So when you're untangling, what you do is you just pull the threads out like this. Don't pull tight anything. Keep it loose. If you've got extra things, yarns and things in there, try and take those out, because they will always make it difficult to untangle. And you might have things like that as well. So, you know, take any of that debris out. Right, so find so it's this one that I want to find. And I haven't doubled that actually, so that's something I did single ply. Actually, that came out quite nice. Probably something. Oh, so that one's all. Oh, okay. So that wasn't very big anyway, so I can move that to one side. Right. And now this one. I've got this piece here. Find the end to that. I'm just going to try. Oh, and that's come out too. So that one's done. Right. But I've got the other end of that here as well. That one I just did, the other end. Up, and that's come out too. So yeah. So you just basically are pulling carefully. Now I've got, yes, so I've got the big one now. This is the big piece of knitting. And I'm just going to pull from the knitting side. So that's where it's attached. I'm just going to pull it like so. But I'm not going to tighten it at all. I'm just going to let it be really loose. At the same time pulling it out and sort of shaking it as well. Pulling and shaking. I know it's funny because some yarns, especially the rusticy ones, I think, they will kind of stick more than others. So if you've got a more smoother yarn, then that will stick less. Yeah, and you just continue to pull it out. And if you come across something like that, what's going on here, you know, basically what happens is that the fluff of the yarn, it kind of gets stuck, and you can just, what you can do is you can just cut that bit off. You see, it's not actually yarn, it's kind of fluff. There you go, there we are. So that was the end of something, and it just wrapped itself around. So look carefully and see, is it fluff that's just like, see, there's a piece of yarn there that could become fluff, you see, and just bind itself to the strands. You can pull that out. There we go, and we've got a bit of a, yeah, and again, just keep pulling things outwards, and if it gets tighter like this has, then get in there and pull out. Sometimes you might need a needle to do it. Right, yep, there we go, that's come apart. Oh, and that one's come out. Right, and then I can start winding that now, so that I don't get it tangled up again. So I start by winding that way, then I wind that way, then I wind that way again. So the initial winding is kind of loose, and then the ball is going to get tighter as I go along there. And we're kind of there now, so that started coming off, so started frogging. So we move that one to one side, and now we've got this bit of yarn, and you can decide if you want to keep this much yarn, because obviously this is now bitty, but I recommend keep it just in case you run out of yarn, because if it's something vintage, for instance, or something you've taken apart. I mean, there used to be a thing where people used to go to charity shops and take knitting apart. I mean, I never really did it, I must admit, because I always had too much yarn anyway. But, you know, if it's something you want to do, then this is an idea, to keep every bit of yarn, just because you don't know if you're going to run out, you know, because you might design something, or you might want to knit up something, a pattern that's out there already. And you might be, okay, I want this pattern, I need this much yarn, and all these bits will help to, you know, to finish off whatever it is you want to make. But if they don't, I mean, if you don't need them, then fair play, you know, you can, if you want to, you can put them in some sort of textile bin or something like that. I still wouldn't recommend throwing things away, because we've just got way too much in the landfill as it is already, you know. So we need to, you know, try not to fill things up. I mean, it depends obviously on how things are disposed of in your area. So anyway, but there you go. I'm all for making good decisions about getting rid of things and upcycling and all that sort of thing, you know. I think it's something we have to do nowadays with the way everything's going with climate change and this and that and the other. And this idea of not having mass-produced stuff all the time, which is one reason knitting is a really good idea, because you don't have to have all that mass-produced, you know, supermarket type stuff off the peg. You can make your own couture, if you like. I was watching Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris a couple of days ago, actually, and it just struck me, and that was, I think, the 40s or 50s or something, and it just struck me that, you know, that whole thing about, you know, making and having something unique, you know, is such a lovely thing. And obviously Mrs. Harris, even though she could actually sew, she wanted something designed, which was quite a nice idea. But there's nothing to say that you can't design your own stuff. You can. Anyone can do it, you know. But if you don't, then there are so many patterns out there that you can knit and sort of, you know, do some pattern hacks to do with maybe colour and yarns and etc., to make that totally your own thing, you know. So yeah, anyway, there you go. That's my tuppence for the day. And as you can see, I'm still just pulling out the yarns and threads. I'm just trying to get this ball wound up. Yep, there we go. And see what we get out of it, really. Now, if you get like this, then it's going to be a bit, you know, you have to then start pulling it out again. So at some point, you will always get to that where it will get stuck on itself again, and then you just need to pull it out again. So I'm just going to find another thread end. There we are. And then start with that one. Oh, that's come out quite nicely. Then this one. They're my grubby paint scissors. It's always the way, the good pair of scissors, you can't find them when you need them. The actual sewing and knitting pair of scissors. But yeah, anyway, there it is. Probably in the car. Because they're small, isn't it? So you can actually transport them around when you're knitting out and about. Right, and then sometimes you might have to pull a knot apart. Like so. There we are. So I think that's all done, isn't it? You know, well, I've got all the small strands done. Now the best thing to do is to gather them together and put them into a bag. Not a huge bag, a little bag, because otherwise they will start, you know, twisting onto each other again. So I've done those. I've got this on the go still. I've got this one started and prepped, and this one is not tangled either, so I can start this one easily, and this one is also not tangled, so I can do that one. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off all that untangling. Hooray, voila. Blink of an eye and it's done. Oop. Right, so I've got a nice big ball and another sort of smaller ball, and these are both with 2 strands, and then I've got these other bits which are single stranded. So I think that's enough probably to make something. I can make a hat, I can make gloves, I can make a shawl with it maybe. Probably not enough for a jumper. I could make a baby thing, you know, like a baby jumper with it. Yeah, and maybe a whole baby set actually, because babies are kind of small. Oh, okay, it's all rolling now. It's rolling away. I'll see you in the next episode. So signing off.